Okay, here we are. This is my first live in this format, first time live on TikTok. Assuming it's working correctly. Seems to be. Hey! Let's see. Yeah, we're live on TikTok. That's the first. Uh, this is going to be day one. I'm going to try to do one of these every day. I'm going to try to do at least 5 a week, but we'll see. This is going to be my new resolution. This is day one of the new administration in my year 3. Uh, so, we're just going to talk about what happened today after the inauguration. We'll go back to the inauguration. That's what I watch each and every, almost every. I try to watch every inauguration. I have since I was a young kid. My family was always into watching them. We get bored, but I learned to like a lot of it and watch quite a bit of the inauguration, the speeches, the pomp and circumstances, the hails to the chief and the taking the oath on the Bible. Um, all that history. I really love it. I don't retain as much as I should, and I wish I could. Should probably study it a little bit more, but I've been following it for a long time. But today it also landed on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So after watching the inauguration, I went to go do the march in town and missed it because I misread the times. I thought the pre-ceremony started at 11 and the actual march started at 11. Oh well, I got to catch the very end of the parade, and then saw the festivities afterwards. Pastor Aya, our pastor, did the invocation, and then she was recognized for her vision for the Vision Award for the community here in Merced. So that was wonderful. And what else has happened today? Oh, so much, so much. Went and watched all of that. Uh, they had some great speakers, some great dancers from the community. We had some great music, lots of inspiring speeches on how to be a part of community. The mayor gave the declaration for a day of service, as for Merced, as did fell right in line with the National Declaration for Martin Luther King Jr. But meanwhile, I'm trying not to check my phone and see the status of everything going on with the new administration that we got. Afterwards, I was invited. We got to go to a nice Thai lunch and came home. Got caught up on my homework. What else did I do? Got caught up on my homework. And, then dinner. I finally went and cooked some dinner. Made turkey burger patties for the first time since I was with mom, or when I was a kid. And then the then we have I don't even remember what I was talking about. Food. I made turkey burgers, and then we got through and did this great dinner tonight, and then was gonna get there and watch some TV with my roommate. I was gonna come do the live stream earlier, and then we got on. I got on the phone with a friend who needs some support. Some of my friends need support out there, so we did that. Christian, uh, a Christian. Working with Pastor A has been really good with all of this. But we'll get back to what we have to do with the bills today, because this is ridiculous. Because one of the executive orders, Section 2, says, it's hilarious. Sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. And I have to laugh because whoever wrote this doesn't know biology. It gets worse. It gets worse. I'll tell you why it's so bad in the first minute. Female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces a large reproductive cell. At conception. At conception, you don't know. You don't know. 98% of the population, easily, sex, gender, physical sex, your sex phenotype, your sex karyotype, karyotype is your XXXY or whatever. 98% of the population, easy, male, female. That's great. 2% or less gets very, 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 very interesting, because if you're to follow this sex at birth, then you have people like, well, shoot, intersex people. So the one that blew my mind when I was learning all about all this originally, intersex was CAIS, is one of the many, many intersex conditions out there. Now, intersex is one of these things where it's a medical condition. The medical community calls them differences of sex development, DSDs. There's some DSDs that don't fall under the intersex umbrella, but there's dozens of these. Okay, a couple of them are very serious. Most just cause they don't cause you a lot of deathly illness at birth, but they can cause you a lot of problems later. And the one that blew my mind was CAIS, complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. Okay, CAIS, you are with CAIS, they will be identified at birth as a woman, because as a girl, because they look like a girl, they have all the markings of a girl. No one would ever guess it. Okay, you get to puberty or sometimes into adulthood or much into adulthood, and they're typically infertile, almost always, and they have XY DNA. The woman with CAIS is XY DNA. Okay, XY. This is because it's complete androgen sensitive syndrome. Almost the entire thing that our bodies do to develop, all of our stuff, is through hormones. In fact, it's not even XXXY, even in the basic sense, because XX, it's the SRY gene. XX has SRY gene off, XY has SRY gene on, okay? And that starts a whole cascade of development right from conception or shortly after conception, through the entire process, okay? XX, and that's in typical development, typical XXXY development is all based on the SRY gene, because there are XX, the SRY gene can be flipped so that it can be on a XX individual, have the SRY gene on, will develop male, and they'll never know it. And usually there's some issues with that. There's also all these different conditions. There's triple X, there's XX. Some people have multiple sets of DNA. You can have XX and XY. But CAS was the one that blew my mind, because 200 years ago, we didn't have DNA. We didn't know about DNA. They would have been identified as a woman. They would have been grown up as a woman. They would have been married in the church, and they would have just been infertile. In fact, you have all these legends, these myths, stories about the fairest woman in the land who can't have kids. How did we get this? How did we get this? Because, well, CAS tends to make someone very effeminate looking, because their body cannot process the energy. They can't process testosterone. So no matter how much testosterone they have, they can't process it. This is just one of dozens of intersex conditions. These are medical conditions, okay? It's not just something that's made up. These are actual medical situations, DSDs, differences of sex development. CAIS was the one that blew my mind, okay? Because that meant everything I was taught biologically, that, XX always means female, XY always means male. And it doesn't. All of this is through the process of development. Everything you do from puberty onward, puberty is caused by hormones. We know this. We know this. All of the stereotypes you have are done by hormones. Okay? Whether it's hormones before you're born or after you're born, everything is puberty. For the person saying I'm not stating any facts, I'm 100% stating facts right now. This is 100% facts. Intersex is a factual information. It's medical science, medical fact. It's proven. Okay, this is not up for debate. There's no question about DSTs and differences in sex development conditions. That's 100% factual information. Okay, there are multiple conditions. It is a rarity. It's less than 2% of the population that deals with these types of issues. Probably the majority of the issues, the ones that are really the intersex conditions, are less than 1%. If you want to get to where it was hybrid, we used to call them hermaphrodites, but people that are visibly intersex at birth, that's a very, 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 very small percentage of them. I happen to be one of those people. That was born that way. They have given me, because they forced surgery on me when I was born. And then when my body didn't develop the way they wanted it to, then in high school, they held me down and injected me with hormones, with testosterone. So if you want to know how the way I look, it's because, like I said, it's always about the hormones. And with me, they forced it on me. But that's the first part. That's what's somewhat ridiculous about this, because if you were to follow the rules in the executive order, those people with CAIS would be classified as male and be forced to use the male restrooms. When in no time in history would they ever have been classified as men. Ever. Their bodies don't develop like men. They might typically, or I shouldn't say typically, in many cases, I don't know the exact averages of CAS. It's not my expertise. This is not my expertise. The percentage of CAS and some of these other conditions, but they'll have internal testes. You'll never see it on the outside until you do until you have to do surgery or they die. They don't know. They often don't know clear into adulthood. Nowadays, it's usually puberty, but that's more of a very recent development. Last 50 years or so. You wouldn't know that they were pubescent. I mean, or had XY DNA. And there's conditions for the same thing for XX. This is why when you're doing biology classes in college and stuff, they don't make you test or get your karyotype of your own DNA. Because too many students would be surprised that their DNA doesn't match what their sex assigned at birth was. It's a very rare case, but it would still be enough of a percentage. I mean, 1%, that's 1 in 100 people, right? You do 1,000 kids, that's 10 people. You have too many trauma classes. You get people like that. Likely with that, it's actually much rarer, but it still would be enough. There's a reason they don't do it. They don't make you test your own DNA. And if you're whatever you're doing, if you're just scrolling by on the stream and commenting or whatever, have you had yourself karyotyped? Do you know if you're XX or XY? If you haven't had even a blood karyotype, which isn't 100% certain, you don't know what your DNA is. You don't know. Nobody knows until you've had it actually tested. That's the way this goes. I love the free. People think this is made up, and it's people don't understand biology. That's what's so crazy about this. Because they do things like biological classification of male or female. What is the biological classification? And then they go to define these that don't make any sense in society. Because you can have a biological classification, but like I said, with CIS women, if you use a biology lab, a biological one, and you go by DNA, then they would be the men's restroom because they have XY DNA, but they've been women all their life physically. You wouldn't know the difference. No one would know. You go look this up. Go look at people talking about it. Talking about they're having CIS or some of these other intersex conditions. Myself, and I've got a video out there where I talk about this, but myself, it was a very long journey coming to terms with what my mom told me, because she didn't tell me till I was an adult, because they don't tell kids. Doctors will sometimes perform the surgery without telling them. In my case, my mom knew, but just like all of them, they're told not to tell your kids. Don't tell your kids, because that's supposed to be it. They will be whatever, whatever you raise them as. That's good for their mental health. That's what the old thinking was. That's what it used to be. People just didn't know. People don't know the truth. People don't know biology. People don't know freedom. People don't know truth. And that's why I'm doing this, and I'm going to do this every day. That's the goal. People don't know truth. I didn't know truth. I didn't know the truth. I fought this for so long. I fought myself for so long. I was always for the truth. Always for the truth. I would lean more libertarian for a long time. I ran for president of the United States at one point. I was a write-in candidate in California. I didn't know the truth. I was raised anti-LGBTQ. I was against all of this. I was against gender and transgender and whatever they were calling it at the time, or whatever it was. I was against it. That's the way. I didn't know. Because we weren't told. We weren't told. There's so much we're not told in school. I was taught that, your veins are blue and veins are always red, and veins are always blue and arteries are red, right? No, gender veins are not. That's just how deep the blood vessel is in the skin, okay? If you're taught that in school, you got taught wrong. I was taught there are 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, gas. Well, there's 3 primary states of matter. That's like a half dozen other states of matter when you get to the advanced sciences. They're very rare. We were taught very simple basis of DNA and very simple about men and women. The very simple side of things. Reality is 10 times more complicated. It's 10 times more complicated. Maybe 100 times. That's what we're talking about. I will answer any question. You want to put a question in the chat? I'm trying to monitor as much as I can. Let me know. I will answer anything. I'll talk about anything. XX and XY biology is facts. Yes, for 80% or 98% of the people. Clarice, if you're still, Charisse, if you're still on, 98% plus. That is correct. If you don't understand that there's other thing besides XX and XY, then you don't know biology at all. You really don't understand human anatomy or biology. So, yeah, not the everything else. Yeah. What the? Yeah, no. Because XX and XY are over 98% of the people. Someone else just joining. You can have three X's and a Y, and you can have one X. You could have. There's all these other different combinations. 2 sets of DNA. Mosaic. Sometimes there's a version of it known as vanishing twin syndrome. You can have multiple sets. One human can have multiple sets of DNA. We used to only identify it for people like had one eye color, one eye of one color and one eye of another, and we thought it was pretty rare. But we've learned a lot about this, and you can get multiple sets of DNA from your parents, and it's probably a lot more common than we think. You don't know it. You don't know it from doing a blood test usually. You don't know it unless you can test tissue, and it's people do a DNA test on certain tissues, and this section of tissue of the person is based on a different set of DNA. Yeah, it's getting, we're finding out it's a lot more common than we think. There is a thing called XXXY mosaic, which is where one of your sets of DNA is XX and one of your sets is XY. It's extremely rare, but it does happen. And there are tons of questions, tons of people that just don't know that biology works this way. And for it to be stated here when it's scientifically wrong in the executive order, going by common sense. Yeah, common sense is what you see because you see it all the time. You see 98% of the people. You don't see the minority groups. It's a big problem that a lot of minority groups are worried about right now, is because who has the voice? Who has the voice? I'm not sure what happened but it's tough. Ask me a question. I'm up here for asking anything. I'm up to be asked any question. Let's see. Gender. Let me just read. I'll just read the next part. Gender ideology replaces the biological category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assessed gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women, and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this claim as true. Gender ideology includes the idea that there is a vast spectrum of genders that are disconnected from one sex. Gender ideology is internally inconsistent in that it diminishes sex as an identifiable or useful category, but nonetheless maintains it's possible for a person to be born in the wrong sexed body. And there is so much misinformation in that. First of all, the biggest misconception I always see that people talk about is they think that identifying as a different gender has like a choice. Like, I identify with the plight of the Native American, that type of identity. And it's really, we don't have a better term for it. We really need a better term than gender identity, because the concept is that it's very deep inside of you. Most people who have gender dysphoria know this since a very early age, very, very young. It follows you their whole life. Gender dysphoria is something that just is. And you just know it. And that's the biggest thing. The one that's the most wrong about this is the multiple genders. People get confused, like, well, how many genders are there? Well, there's infinite, because it's not what we're using for the term gender here is a better way of describing ourselves. Because what people want to do is we want to say, oh, there's two boxes. We have a male box and a female box, okay? Let's say two boxes. And now we want to take those boxes and we want to add things to them. So, well, you're a man, okay? And then you say, well, but this is not what men do. You need to be this, you need to be that. And so they keep shrinking the box on what is a man. Well, the more you shrink the box, the more you exclude people. So people don't fit in boxes very well. So the concept of these multiple thousands of, or whatever, there's not thousands, but all these different genders is simply that we have a better way to communicate. It took me a long time to understand this. It took me forever to understand, because I was of the thing like, why do we need these? Just describe yourself. Well, language evolves, and we come up with new words to describe things that normally would be very complicated to describe. So let's switch over from gender to sexual orientation. We can have new words that way, like demisexual, meaning that you have, well, for people who understand the term, I don't have to go. Well, one would not have to go and explain. Well, I don't really get a sexual attraction until I've had an emotional connection with the person. So you can have this big long explanation, or you could just use this term demisexual. Right? Okay, that's language evolving. That's the thing with gender ideology too. It's like I don't fit in the box. So where do you put me? And it's a harder concept to get. It takes some opening. But once you've broken through, and like I said, Intersex was the first one that did that for me. Intersex, CAIS, and coming to terms with my own biology that's not normal, and my own medical history. Um, it was not fun being held down and shot up with hormones, and that's what they do to intersex people. This right here, forget trans people for a minute. Forget trans entirely. Intersex people born with these DSD conditions. This is what it's going to affect, and this is going to backfire so much. This is just ridiculous. This is going to backfire because people don't think through the consequences. People don't think through them. And let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Go ahead and add in, ask questions. I'm going to try to do these every night. I'm not used to having so many different comments, but yeah, I got to get used to this streaming stuff like this. But yeah, we will just continue to talk. This is day one. Martin Luther King repeated a great thing from the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident. I gotta fix the squeaky chair, by the way. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And by men singular as in from mankind, all people. All are created equal. That they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Rights that don't have to be granted by anyone. You just have them by existing. They're granted by your creator. By coming into this world, you have these rights, inalienable rights. And among these rights are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. We hold these truths to be self-evident of we of right ought to be free. That's the Declaration of Independence. That's what we're doing. That's what we're standing for. Freedom. Liberty. That's what it's about. That's what all this is about. And not following ignorance. I see so much ignorance in people, the few comments I have here. People so sure in their truth. And it's hard for people to be uncomfortable. It's hard for people to be uncomfortable. It's hard for people to be in a place that challenges what they hold to be true. It's very difficult for us to open up and change the way of thinking. Trust me. Be going through this. It was not easy to challenge what I'd been taught. But we've all been taught wrong. We've all been taught some things wrong in our life, or some things that are inaccurate. So even from people who thought they knew the truth. It's not that they're lying to you. A lot of them didn't know. So the truth is, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we're just going to sit here every day and talk about truth. What is truth? Truth is what is. Truth is what is. Not what we want it to be, not what we were taught it to be, not what we think it is. It is true. I'm sitting here as an intersex Christian telling you, and I am a firm believer in God. a firm believer in the Bible. And I'm a firm believer in the American people. And I'm a firm believer in this country. And we're going to get places. We are going to get places in this country. We're going to do great things, amazing things, because we have amazing people in the United States of America. Our founding fathers had a great vision, and we have a great foundation. And we need to continue. Hi, Cody. We need to continue this tradition of furthering freedom, furthering people to have liberty in themselves, furthering the goal of truth. And that's what I think we need to do. This whole thing that I want to do is just talk about truth. Talk about truth. I'm Jenny. I am intersex. I was born intersex. There's so many DSDs, intersex conditions, and people don't want to talk about them. And yet here we are trying to legislate based on bad facts, bad biology, bad truth. It's not truth. They're trying to legislate on fiction, on lies, literal lies, literal untruths. So they're provable that these conditions exist. They want to deny that intersex even exists, that people can develop bodily differently than two categories. It's nuts. It's crazy. But that's what we live in right now. And we just need to fight and be, I hate the term fight, but it's when you're being attacked, it's a fight. It's a fight to survive. And I'm going to do this by just being more visible and talking. And I don't care. Bring it on. Bring it on. Because I stand on truth. And for those of you who are doing this for some Christian reasons, I stand on truth as well. I stand on the Bible. And I'll talk about it. I stand on God. On Christ, the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. And that's what we're going to go forward with. But yeah, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, freedom, diversity. We're all human. If we don't recognize human first, we need to look at each other as a human first and everything else. Because when we put labels, when we try to group people, all that does is bring out hate. I gave a speech yesterday, quoted an ancient Muppet. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. So if you've got hate, where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? That's something you got to figure out. I'm going to enjoy cooking. I'm going to go to school tomorrow. I'm going to support my friends. I'm going to fight for my friends. I'm going to fight for truth. I'm going to fight for this country. Because this country can thrive. And as much as I've very political, and much as I'm very as much as I really care, we can do this. We can be stronger. We can do well. Right? I hope so. That's where I've been today. That's what's been on my mind. I'll probably talk more about this tomorrow. But for those of you who popped in or are going to watch a recording of it later, thank you very much. This was a shirt that was given to me at the college. By the way, We can all do this together. We can stay unified. We can stay unified together. We are more powerful together, and we can't let anybody break us apart. Regardless of political party, regardless of affiliation, we need to be stronger as people, as human beings, and love each other. That's what we need in this country. Not politics driven by hate. And that's what I've seen. So, thank you very much. I saw a lot of you out there. And so we need. We need love, 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 love. You do the Beatles. Love is all you need. Love is all you need. Love is all you need. He loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. It must be getting late. I'm just randomly singing here and having fun. That's just just me. Oh, we're gonna do well. We're gonna move through this. Uh, I'll keep talking about intersex conditions in the future, and because it's just things that people don't know. I don't know why this isn't taught more in school recently, but yeah. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.